I've built over 250 personal brands for 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure founders. My team and I work with clients every day to build their authority, establish credibility, and grow their businesses. And there are 1,000 different things that we could do to optimize a personal brand. But there is one that keeps separating the most profitable personal brands from the unprofitable ones time and time again. I taught 30 founders this one thing in an exclusive training. I'm going to run you through the key things that you need to know. We'll be covering the 3 sales in every deal, how to position yourself to make these 3 sales before you even speak to a prospect, and how to show up online to maximize authority and land high-value clients. Stick with me for the next 30 minutes. I'm going to run you through exactly what I taught them. Let me show you how to instantly build authority, double your rates, and scale your business in 2025 without posting any cringe content, wasting thousands on ads, or bugging your network with spammy sales pitches. Now, look, guys, my goal for today is very, very simple. My goal is to set you on the right path for growing your personal brand in 2025. And over the next 20 minutes, you're going to learn a 3-step process for positioning yourself as an authority, creating content that converts, and building your personal brand. I'm going to pack as much as I can into this to really give you the tools to create a life-changing personal brand over the next year. We'll look at the 3 secrets that have allowed me to scale my personal brand, the 3 sales your personal brand needs to make, how to position yourself as an authority so you can double your rates, and a simple formula for creating content that grows your audience, builds trust, and converts connections into clients. And you might be wondering at this point, why is this different to anything I've ever seen before? Well, this isn't going to be like most things. We're going to be looking at some of the strategies the most successful personal brands have used. And the truth is, the biggest and the most profitable personal brands aren't successful because they use gamey content acts, post cringe selfies, or have automated engagement pods. They're successful because they're built on the principles of psychology and they have high authority positioning. I've been building and studying leading personal brands for 4 or 5 years now, and I've noticed the common trends among them. Today, I'm going to teach you those common trends. Why should you listen to me, though? Why should you listen to me on building a personal brand? Well, for those who haven't come across me before, I run a company called Kurogo, and over the last 5 years, I've built over 200 personal brands, generated millions in revenue for myself and for them, generated over 100 million views for our clients across 40,000 pieces of content. We've had clients from the likes of KPMG, McKinsey, Salesforce. Our work has been featured in Sky, Entrepreneur, Insider, and many more. And look, over that time, I've got a lot wrong. I've wasted thousands of hours on strategies that don't work. I've spent in the wrong places, and I've had months of trial and error that led to nothing. But in doing so, I've also figured out what works, and I've actually got a lot right. I'm in a position now where I know I'll get leads every single week. I charge 10 times what I used to. My hourly rate and my monthly retainer have literally gone up tenfold. And I have an audience that I can sell to anytime. And my intention for this training is to shortcut this process for you so that you don't have to go through the years of mistakes, wasted money, and trial and error that I did. And after doing this for 5 years, I've realized that every industry has a select few who rise above the rest. They effortlessly stand out. They gain the trust of their audience and they attract opportunities like a magnet. And it's because they've built a personal brand that positions them as the leader in their space. These people are what we call industry authorities, and your industry will have them too. I'm sure you can think of them now. The people who seem to have it easy. And look, the old way of doing things just doesn't work anymore, which was rely on referrals, expect your work to do the talking, only for your pipeline of opportunities to run dry once you've exhausted that immediate network. You have to constantly compete on price because you're a commodity. In other words, you are an option. Today, though, you can position yourself as the go-to leader in your industry. You can scale your reputation and attract opportunities at will, charging higher prices without competition. By doing so, you become the option. We're going from being an option to being the option. And a few very specific things change at the point of becoming an industry authority. Okay? A few very specific things. You become magnetic, you get oversubscribed, and you really accelerate your authority. Everything changes once you get to this point. Your first challenge is to get onto this pyramid authority, and then you want to start scaling it. And the reason you want to start scaling it is because when you get to this point of being an industry authority, you have less competition, you stop competing, you'll be valued more, you're no longer treated like a commodity, and you become in demand. You create a never-ending flow of opportunities. And that's because as you scale this, your influence increases and your impact increases. And in so doing, so does your income. So look, just ask yourself this, right? What would it be like if you had a consistent stream of new opportunities and leads coming to you every single week, willing to pay you 10 times more? What would that do for your business? And the stats back this up as well. Nearly 72% of people say the CEO's reputation either moderately or greatly impacts their decision to work with a service provider. 14.2 say it slightly influences their decision. Actually, a total of 85.9% of people are influenced by a CEO's reputation. The same proportion, 85.9% of people, are willing to pay at least 2 times more for services from a company seen as the leader in their space. Okay. Over half of people would pay at least 5 times more, and 8.8% of people are willing to pay 10 times more. In this study that we ran, so this is all data from a study we ran, in the same survey, those who were building their personal brand, every single one of them saw an increase in opportunities as a result. So the data proves this stuff works, but it's not going to happen overnight. Okay, look, you might see progress, you might get some wins instantly, but true personal brand building takes time. And if anyone in this industry tells you you're going to have a world-leading personal brand in the next month, please run as far as you can. I want to be totally honest with you because I don't want to insult your intelligence. You're not going to build a 6 or 7-figure personal brand in 1 month. But over 3 to 6 months, you can see significant improvements. Over 6 to 12 months, you can change your life. It took me 3 years, but I'm going to show you how to get it done way quicker than that. And there's 3 secrets that you need to know in order to do this. I've been using these secrets myself for 3 years, and it has changed my life. Secret number 1 is I get people to trust me instantly without ever boasting. Secret 2, I build trust in my product at scale, and it's completely free to do so. And secret 3 is I get my followers ready to buy from me before we speak. And the systems that I use to make these things happen are the exact systems that helps clients like Sean go from 4,000 to over 27,000 followers. Selling out is accelerated twice and generating over 4 million impressions in the process. Debbie generated 3.5 million impressions, gaining 9,000 new followers. Ollie increased his views by over 550,000%, and no, that is not a typo. He built a multi-6-figure pipeline in the process. Samaya gained 14,000 new followers and TV, media, and podcast inquiries. Joe used this to hit record months and build a 6-figure pipeline. And Anna gained nearly 6,000 followers with nearly 1 million impressions on her content. And me and my clients were able to get crazy results like these because we understand that in every deal, there are 3 sales. And every time we interact with our audience online, we are making deals. Okay? Anytime we interact with them. First, you've, of course, got to sell people on your product. That's obvious. You also have to sell people on themselves. But before both of those things, you have to sell your audience on yourself. That is, you have to prove that you are somebody worth listening to. People will not listen to you about your product, and they will not even get to the point of convincing themselves it's right for them if they don't first trust you. The very first thing we have to have in place is people have to see you as a person of authority, as somebody that is credible. These are the 3 sales stages, and we can map these onto your personal brand. There's 2 personal brand systems we're going to use in order to actually convince people of these 3 things. We're going to use your positioning and you're going to use your content. And we can actually map these 3 sales stages against your positioning and your content. I'm going to dive into each one and teach you how to do them. The first thing we need to cover is authority. This is how to get buy-in before you even post. Positioning is hands down the most underappreciated aspect of building a personal brand. Yet it's the one that consistently separates the profitable personal brands from the unprofitable ones. If you build your personal brand on a solid foundation of positioning, I promise you everything else you do will be 10 times more effective. One of the reasons that you're not dominating your industry right now is because you're not seen as a leading authority in it. So you're constantly overlooked and you don't get the opportunities, the clients, or the rates you deserve. So let's look at how we can solve that across the 3 sales stages. The first thing we have is our pitch. Our pitch is important because the first thing we've got to convince our audience of is that we are worth listening to, right? We're worth listening to, engaging with, buying from in the first place. If they don't believe that, we won't even get a chance to convince them of our product or themselves. See, the messenger matters, right? Who says something matters just as much as what they say. So if we want our audience to believe what we say, we have to position ourselves as a credible source of information, especially in a sea of AI-generated content and unqualified gurus. And this is what we do with our pitch. Our pitch is a short statement of credibility, providing irrefutable proof that we are credible in our field. And the key is that your audience instantly understand your pitch and then they remember it forever. You can use things like career milestones, results, accreditations, awards, features, endorsements, or even previous clients to create your pitch. Any form of social proof works here. For example, my pitch is that I've helped over 200 entrepreneurs to build their personal brand in the last 5 years. It's actually closer to 300 now. If you've done something over 200 times, you have to be quite good at it. So this statement qualifies me to talk about personal branding and gives my audience the trust that I know what I'm doing. It does not qualify me to talk about things like metaphysical anatomy or AI in recruitment, but I'm not talking about those sorts of things in my personal brand. So think about your pitch. What makes you credible? The second thing we've got to sell people on is our product. The biggest mistake people make here is they focus too much on the features of their products, not the outcomes. Your audience might see you as credible, but if they don't see a clear problem or goal you can help them with, they will never engage you to help them. And that's where you get a huge following, but no one ever buying, which is not what you want from your personal brand. And this is how we fix it with our promise. So your promise makes that value proposition clear and concise. Remember, we haven't got thousands of words to persuade people at this stage. We need to do this instantly. So your promise needs to cover four things: who you help, so your target audience, needs to cover what you help them achieve, so the dream result, the timeline that that's possible in, and solutions to potential objections they might have. For example, my own might be something like this: I help founders and CEOs build their audience, establish authority, and generate clients in 6 months without spamming their network or sounding egotistical. That has all of the key elements here. It has my target audience, founders and CEOs. It has a clear result: establish authority, generate clients, build their audience. The timeline that it's possible in, 6 months, and a solution to a potential objection. So they don't have to spam their network. They don't have to sound egotistical as they're doing this. So note down your own using that formula. At this stage, your audience know who you are. They trust you. They believe in your product is effective, and they're left asking, will this work for me? They believe it works, but they don't know if it works for them. See, humans take a lot of convincing that products will actually work for them in their specific situation. We come up with excuses about how our industry, our product, or our situation is different somehow. It's really just evolutionary psychology protecting us, but that's for another day. The point is this: you need to show how your product is structured in such a way that it's near impossible not to get results. In other words, you have a model or a system you go through in order to make success inevitable. And if you don't have this, this is something that you need to build into your business. You should have a system or a framework in place such that it's near impossible for people not to get results when they work with you. And when we see information packaged into models or frameworks, we instantly see them as more achievable and more valuable. So doing this is also going to help you generate more leads that convert at higher rates and higher prices. And it's going to get you better results. It's literally a quadruple win. So consider the difference here, using my own business as an example, right? What's more powerful to you? I'll help you build your personal brand, or my PAC system is a tried and tested system for becoming a thought leader through personal branding. First, we position you as an authority before amplifying your ideas to millions of people and creating conversion systems to turn connections into clients. Which one of those do you think is more convincing? It's definitely the second, right? And that is the power of packaging. So turn your own knowledge into a method or a framework that you can use to generate repeatable success with your customers or clients, and then package it in a way that is easy to understand. And once you've done this, you'll have all three powerful positioning statements to stand you out from your competitors. It's going to help you build authority and set you apart. And these map against the three sales we need to make when we're convincing people to follow us, engage with us, or buy from us. You can see how they map against it quite clearly here. Your pitch helps people sell themselves. Your pitch helps you. Your pitch sells people on you. Your promise sells them on the products, and your packaging sells them on the fact that they can get results with it themselves. Now let's look at how we can back up our positioning with high authority content. Content is like a 24/7 salesperson for your personal brand and business. It will speak to more people in a day than you can in a lifetime. And in 2025, publishing content is a non-negotiable. Because when you produce content, you're able to reach, influence, and persuade millions of people at scale, turning connections into clients. Best case, you generate a consistent stream of inbound leads. Worst case, you build an audience of advocates who will refer you to their friends. But just posting content doesn't quite cut it in 2025. We live in a far more competitive world than we did 15 years ago, where that might have worked. And look, consumers, they're more skeptical than ever. So we need the right types of content to truly build trust and generate opportunities. So let's look at how the three sales stages map against producing content. There are actually three types of content that you need to produce in order to convince people of these three things. The first one is selling them on yourself, which is how I content. How I content is the best way to sell yourself subtly because it shows proof of lived experience or expertise. How I content shares advice based on results that you have personally achieved, subtly demonstrating that you are credible and worth listening to on the topic. Again, let's compare the following. So 2 examples I could use. There are 7 things you need to know about building a personal brand versus here's how I built over 200 plus personal brands, 7 steps, right? The first could come from anyone. and there's no reason to listen to me specifically. But the second can only come from a very small group of people and shows why I'm worth listening to. Okay? It demonstrates my ability in the process. Okay? I have built over 200 personal brands. There's a huge amount of credibility in that. If you want to sell yourself before you even speak directly to your audience, turn your generic tips and advice into how-I content. We then have to sell them on the product, and we do this through how-to content. How-to content provides value to your reader through sharing proven models and frameworks. It should be focused specifically on solving problems and helping your audience achieve results. How-to content is best when it's packaged around your IP. So turning information and knowledge into models and frameworks and steps, as we did in the position phase, it shows deeper understanding and a much higher likelihood of success, convincing your reader and therefore your product. Turning information and knowledge into models, frameworks, and steps shows much deeper understanding and a higher likelihood of success, which convinces your reader. And turning information and knowledge into models, frameworks, and steps shows deeper understanding and a higher likelihood of success, which convinces your reader that the content and therefore your product will get them results. Again, compare these two. We'll go with the original example, which I think was there are 7 things you need to know about building a personal brand versus how to build a profitable personal brand in 7 steps, my PAC method. Right? The first is generic and uninspiring. The second shows that there is a repeatable method to achieve a specific result, which is far more convincing. So if you want to sell people on your product before you even get on a demo call or a sales call, package information into how-to content. And the final thing we need to sell them on is themselves. And we do this through how-X content. So how-X content is case study content that shows proof through customer success stories. So you're replacing X here with one of your customers or clients. So your audience need to believe in themselves as well as your product and you, as we've established. And sharing stories of how people similar to them have achieved the same goals they have creates the belief that they can do it too. Compare these examples. There are 7 things you need to know about building a personal brand with how this consultant went from unknown to thought leader in 7 steps. The first might apply to someone in a completely different industry with different starting point, different goal, whereas the second shows a specific person with a specific start and end point that a certain audience will relate to. And you can add even more detail in the body of the content, of course. So if you want to solve objections and get customers and clients queuing up to work with you, show how your product has worked for people like them. And you do that with how-X content. And once you've done that, you're going to have the 3 types of content that map onto our sales stages. Once you've refined your positioning and you begin posting these types of content, you'll have a personal brand that delivers results And once you've refined your positioning and you begin posting these 3 types of content, you'll have a personal brand that delivers results for your business, not your ego. You'll get people to trust you instantly, you'll build trust in your product at scale, and you'll have followers ready to buy before you even speak. And this is the exact structure, as I said, that allows me to get people to trust me instantly without ever having to boast. It allows me to build trust in my product at scale, and it's completely free to publish content and do so, and it gets followers ready to buy from me before we speak. If you found this useful, the best thing you can do right now is subscribe to my channel because I'll be sharing a load more trainings just like these to help you build your audience, authority, and income. If you're one of the more serious viewers who really wants to scale their personal brand, you can click the link in the description and start mastering your personal brand on LinkedIn in the next 30 days.